Hi everybody! I wanted to share with you a watercolor tutorial on how to do a cactus. So I love cactus, I love desert plants, and this was a super fun one for me to do. I just used watercolor for this. I didn't draw it ahead of time, so it's a fun one just to try to dive right into the paint. And I just used a thicker watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds. So I can't wait to see what you do if you want to try this one. You could also do something similar, but maybe change the shape of the cactus. So have fun with this and good luck making this super cute watercolor cactus painting. All right? Thanks so much for watching. For my watercolor painting today, I am using a Master's Touch watercolor pad. I bought it at Hobby Lobby, you can see, for $4.99. This is it's a good student quality pad of paper. It's 140 pound. And then for the paints, I am using Shinhan Professional watercolor paints. They come in tubes. And then I squirted the tubes in my palette right there. I'm going to start off by using a round brush. It's a size 6. This is another one that you can get at any craft store. And I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in without a pencil sketch. I'm going to get some of my lighter greens wet with water. And I'm going to go ahead and draw the basic shape of my cactus. I'm going to start kind of in the middle of my picture here with a smile. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the top part of the cactus. I'm going to leave a little space because I do want to have a flower on my cactus. So part of the top here I want to leave open so that I can throw my flower in. So it kind of, right now it looks like my cactus just has a big bite out of it. But I want this to be real loose and watery, so before any of my edges dry here, I'm going to blend this all in with water, make it real soft. And while it's wet, I can kind of play around with colors. So I can throw a couple blobs of color here and there, the different greens, just to make it a little bit interesting so it's not just all one flat color. Okay. So that's kind of my starting off point. Might make my cactus go down just a little bit more. So before this line here dries and gets to be a nice hard line, I'm going to bring my cactus down just a little bit farther. I do want to keep this kind of curved base because then it will make my cactus appear round instead of flat. Okay, so there's my basic cactus shape. Now, while that is drying, I'm going to jump down and work on my pot down below. And your pot can really be any color. I'm going to go with the basic terracotta looking pot. I'm mixing a yellow ochre and like a burnt sienna together. And I'm just going to follow that same curved line underneath my cactus here. I'm going to leave a little bit of room to put some dirt in between. So I want this to be a curve and I want it to be a little bit wider than my cactus. And then I'm going to have it go straight down on the sides here. And curve back in. So this is the top part of my pot. And while this is wet, I'm going to throw a little bit of extra burnt sienna kind of along the edges, like the corners, just to add a little bit of shading. You can see the pigment will go wherever there's water, so it'll kind of spread out. And I'm also going to add the bottom section of my pot, so I'm just going to make a slanted line down on both sides. And then when I think, okay, this is about good, I'll add another curved line on the bottom. So we've got curve, 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 all of those kind of matching each other to make it look like a rounded plant as opposed to a flat one. While that's wet, I'm going to go ahead and fill it in with color. And again, I'm using yellow ochre and some burnt sienna mixed, so kind of that golden yellow color. And then while this is still wet, I'm going to add in just a little more burnt sienna kind of along the edges so that it kind of just blends in with the rest. You can see right here I'm getting a little bit of a backwash, and I don't mind. I like having that extra texture. But it's when there's extra water in this area is kind of making the paint kind of blob back into the other area. But I think it's kind of cool, so I'm going to use it. Sometimes I like to avoid those. This is not one of those times. All right, to make this plant or this pot look like it goes behind the cactus, I have to add some lines like this that look like they kind of go right into the side of the cactus. That all of a sudden makes the cactus sit inside of the pot, okay? I have to be careful on those two lines to make sure that the green of my cactus is dry, otherwise the green will blend in with this pot, and you probably don't want that, okay? So I'm going to let that sit, and now I'm going to jump back up to the top once it is dry. Let's see, while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to play around with this flower here. I'm going to go into a pinkish, rose-ish color. Maybe I'll mix it a little bit with kind of a magenta. And I'm going to go ahead and start making some flower petals that will go up off of this cactus. The center is going to be kind of right about there. And I'll make all the little petals that go up off the center. I'm being careful right now not to touch the green because my green's a little bit wet. So I'll come back in and add those petals later. I just want to get something started up here while I'm waiting for the rest of this stuff to dry. With watercolor painting, you really kind of can jump around a lot more because you don't want to be working next to a wet area. So I kind of find myself jumping around, or a lot of times I jump from painting to painting. I'll work on one painting and then while that's drying I'll jump to another. You can see I get a little bit of pink coming into my green, but it's not that much, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to be adding some stuff there later anyway. So this is my basic painting. I'm going to let this dry and then I'm going to add in some more detail. Now that my cactus has completely dried, I can go ahead and add in some details. So I'm going to start in with the cactus again, and this time I'm going to mix a little bit of my light green with a more of a medium shade of green. And I'm going to start making those lines that go down the cactus with my brush. I'm doing kind of a medium amount of water because I do want it to run a little bit, but I don't want it to be so watery that it kind of goes everywhere. I want it to be contained in these lines. While these lines are wet, I can always go in and add a little bit of extra green or even throw a little bit of blue in there just to make them kind of interesting to look at. And then I'll keep on adding more. You can see as I started on the left here that my lines all curve to the left, and now I'm getting to the middle, which is almost straight down, and now I'm going to start curving to the right again, which gives the cactus its form of appearing more rounded than flat. So kind of curving my lines to show the edge of this cactus. While these are wet, I may add just a little bit of blue or a darker green just to kind of make sure that they're nice and solid looking. Part of the fun of watercolor is you don't really know what it's going to do. So in a wet area like this, it's, in my opinion, it's fun just to kind of drop in some color and see what happens and hope that it's a great effect. If not, oh well, better luck next time. But usually it's fun just to kind of see what happens. All right, so I've got my lines, and you can see too, like I didn't worry about making them too smooth. It's a cactus, it's got kind of bumps on it, and I think that makes it look cooler. I might go ahead and add a dark one right here on the edge too, just to kind of solidify my edge here. I'll probably do that on the other side as well. Use a little bit of a blue-green mixture. I'll go ahead and add a little dark edge as well. Okay, so all of a sudden that really popped forward, and I really like how that impacted my cactus. All right, so in the dirt here, I'm going to go ahead and add that. And I don't think it's going to matter too much that my cactus is still a little wet. I'm going to go in with a darker brown and just go ahead and do some little spots in here to make the dirt. If it blends in with the cactus, I can always lift it out later, but it's not going to be the end of the world. Also, if I have it tilted down a little bit, it won't climb up as easily, the part that I just painted. So I do want this to be pretty dark. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this dirt in here. And so I want to use less water, more paint. Another trick is to make brown darker instead of adding black. A lot of times I'll add blue. Blue is a great way to make it darker without making it more dull. And I don't like making paint dull, and usually black is a good way to make something a little bit dull. So by adding these spots of blue, I can add some darker elements to the dirt, still making it look interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and I'm going to jump down to the pot. Now I don't want to touch the pot on the top here because that's wet, and if I do that it'll just all bleed together. But I can work on the bottom section of the pot. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and use my yellow ochre and my burnt sienna mixture, and I'm just going to add a little bit more color here on the bottom of the pot. And if the section is completely wet, then the colors will blend really nicely. If any part of it's dry, it'll create more of a hard line edge. So I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. Right now I'm looking for more smooth, so I'm going to kind of make sure this entire shape that I'm working on has at least some water in it so that all my colors blend nicely. I'm going to go ahead and darken this edge and darken underneath. Give that kind of a shadow. And darken this as well. My cute little cactus. All right, I'm going to jump up to the flower now and basically just give that some more detail. I'm using some rose color and some magenta, and I'm just going to leave some of the petals that I did before, and I'm going to kind of add some new ones in front of them. to make like a darker layer of petals coming up. You can be pretty loose with the flower. Doesn't need to be super detailed. So I'll kind of do that for now. And the flower has a yellow center, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, knowing that it'll mix a little bit with the pink. Since the pink is wet, that's okay. It kind of creates an interesting effect. I'm going to let that dry before adding some of the finishing touches. So for my cactus, the only other things I really want to do here is I'm going to do a little bit more detail on the flower just by adding a couple lines around some of the leaves or petals like that. Maybe a little bit more dark kind of along the bottom edge of the flower. The top part of this I actually really like, so I think I'm just going to leave it. I do want to go in with the dirt and make some sections in there a little bit darker. So I'm going to go in with my brown and just kind of do little dots here and there with that. Like I said, I kind of like it that some of it's going up into the cactus. It looks like it's kind of going between some of the ridges of the cactus here. And then like I said before, to darken the brown, you can just add a little bit of blue too. So I'm just going to do a little bit more detail there. And then my trick for the little stickers on the cactus, the white paint won't do much. It doesn't show up very well with watercolor. So a lot of times I like to use what's called a Posca pen. These are like permanent pens and they're great for adding little details. So I shake that up, and sometimes I'll test it out first on something else just to make sure it works. And then I can go in and add like the little stickers of the cactus with my pen to get little details in there. You could also do this with black if you wanted the little stickers to look black. I've done that before too, by just using like a little fine point Sharpie. But in this case I'm going to go with white and see how it turns out. Just make the cute little stickers. Make the cactus come to life. I actually lived 9 years in Arizona, and this was when I was a little girl, so I grew up learning all about cactus instead of, other places, and could name a lot of the different varieties of cactus and plants. And to this day, when I go there and I smell the smells of the desert, it makes me feel like I'm home. So there you go. Cute little cactus plant. Hope you can try out the painting and create something adorable like this one. All right, thanks for watching and happy painting.